There's something almost cinematic about the moment when a position player takes the mound, and the crowd realizes something unusual is happening. That's exactly what unfolded on April 12, when the normally serious rhythm of the game took a turn, and everything pivoted toward the unexpected. The scoreboard may have been telling one story, but the real highlight came from someone rewriting the script. The kind of moment fans talk about for years. That's when Miguel Rojas stepped up, and with perfect timing, took on the role of pitcher, not out of necessity only, but with a wink, a nod, and the kind of playful swagger that turns a routine inning into something memorable. In a league full of superstars, routines, and drilled-in motions, there are these little breaks of spontaneity. Rojas made one. He climbed the mound late in the game for the Los Angeles Dodgers, in a night that wasn't going their way. The crowd, the cameras, the dugout, everyone sensed a shift. What was going to happen? A chance to simply finish the inning turned into something else entirely. Because position players pitching are already rare, and when one of those players starts imitating the pitchers, the moment becomes surreal. There's a confidence it takes to pull that off, to stand where the mound meets fear, to grasp that the usual rules don't quite apply anymore, and to lean into the absurdity of it. And Rojas did exactly that. The broadcast caught it, the bench noticed it, the opponents even glimpsed it. Fans lost it. One clip showed him mimicking their own pitchers, copying delivery motions, shoulder lean, leg kick, all with exaggerated flair, just enough so you recognize the real reference but just enough off-kilter so it landed as comedy gold. What makes this more than just a funny clip is how it reflects resilience and lightness in the face of a rough night. When a team is getting shelled, morale can fade. But this was a signal: we're still here, still live, still breathing. We might lose the scoreboard, but we can still win respect, laughter, and a memory. It turns a blowout loss into a moment worth remembering. The mound becomes a stage, the player becomes a performer, the game, for just an inning, becomes something beyond sport, a shared experience. Picture the tension in the dugout, the opposing batters stepping in, maybe half wondering if this is serious or some prank. The pitcher's cap, the tread of spikes on the mound, the wind through the stadium lights. Then Rojas comes in. He takes his warm-up tosses. But the next one, he leans into the mimicry. A sharper delivery. A pause. The glance toward the dugout. The batter shifts. The defense holds its breath. This isn't ordinary. This is an announcement: I'm doing this my way. And the reactions were priceless. The broadcast showed the very pitchers he was mimicking, other members of the team, watching from the bench or camera and shaking their heads, smiling. Even the opponents couldn't help but register it. That's when it becomes bigger than the inning. It becomes a kind of cultural moment, a reminder that sports isn't just about numbers and wins and losses. It's about spontaneity, character, connection. The timing couldn't have been better. On a night when the Dodgers were trailing, when the scoreboard was lopsided, when the fans might have been heading toward the exits, the mound offered a reset. Rojas's imitation, done with precision and humor, created a micro-explosion of joy. A camera cuts to the pitcher he just mimicked, maybe mid-delivery elsewhere, then cuts back to Rojas on the mound. The similarity in motion catches you. The difference makes you grin. It's comedic, yes, but it's also a tribute. A kind of respect. I've watched you, I've learned your rhythm, now watch me. Moments like this stick because they surprise us. We go to a ball game expecting the familiar: pitch, swing, field, repeat. But here, out of script, comes something unscripted. That's why the clip spread. That's why fans lost it. Not because it was planned, not because it was rehearsed, but because it felt real, raw, authentic, in the moment. A reminder of why we watch: for excellence, yes, but also for the human stuff. The laughter, the absurdity, the unexpected flourish. And let's acknowledge the skill it takes. Imitating someone's pitching motion isn't trivial. It's not just waving your arm differently. You have to inhabit the body language, the wind up, the pause, the release, the follow through. It must feel familiar yet fresh. Rojas nailed that balance, recognizable to the trained eye, entertaining to the casual fan. By doing so, he flipped the script on what the mound represents. One moment it's fearsome, lithe, elite. The next it's playful, accessible, human. And the context adds another layer. Using the mound when your team is behind is risky. The pressure is already on. But using that pressure to create space for fun. That's bold. It says, we accept the situation, but we are not defeated. We'll fight on, in our own style. And for the fans, watching live in the stadium or on the screen, it offers a release. A collective laugh. A moment to lean back and say, hey, this is why we're here. When the cameras pan to the opposing batter stepping into the box, maybe the smile cracked just a tiny bit. The recognition flashed. I'm up against this now. The mound isn't what I expected. The delivery has a flair. I don't know how to read the motion. It's a subtle shift, but one that carries tension and delight simultaneously. Because the game is still on. But the game is also having fun. And that duality is something every fan wants. We want to admire the athleticism, feel the suspense, root for one team or another. But we also want to feel something. See a moment of improvisation. Witness the unpredictable. In a sport governed by statistics, insurance policies, contract minutiae, here's one that refuses to be boxed. One that enters into memory not by virtue of a home run or a clutch strikeout, but because it made us grin and lean in. In the aftermath, the highlight reels will show Rojas's wind-up, the pitcher's reaction, the dugout's wave. But what I hope people remember is the mood. The locker room after the game, the clubhouse banter, the fans retelling, "Yeah, I was there when," this kind of moment becomes part of the lore. Because few things crack open the usual structure of a game like this. And when they do, they shine. Then you add the element of imitation, the mimicry. It's not random. Rojas chose specific pitchers to mimic, he picked motions that the audience would recognize, he timed it so it landed. That means he considered this. So somewhere between the normal flow and the spontaneous bit is the preparation. The awareness, I'm going to do something that people will remember. That kind of self-awareness, executed at the mound, is rare. And you can feel the ripple effect. For younger players in the crowd, maybe they said, "That's awesome." For veteran players, maybe they chuckled. For us at home, maybe we paused our snack and said, "Wait, what did he just do?" Then rewound, then laughed, then shared. Because gestures like this travel. A clip becomes a story. A story becomes a legend. Now consider the timing of this in the season. Early enough that the narrative around the team wasn't locked in. Late enough that the fatigue, the pressure, the media narrative had already set in. In that space, a little levity has outsized impact. Suddenly you're reminded the players are humans. They're aware. They've watched each other. They've felt the grind. And in a moment of vulnerability, they crack a joke, through pitch delivery. That's poetry. From the perspective of the opposition, the hitters, the bench, the crowd, the mood shifts. You're used to one thing, you get another. And in that confusion there's a little power. The pitcher is supposed to intimidate, to dominate. But now the mound is a stage. The opponent is momentarily off balance. They're adjusting. And that adjustment is fun to watch. It's subtle but it exists. For the fans in the stands, the moment works on multiple levels. First, surprise. Then, humor. Then, relief. Because when your team is trailing, heavy, you still want something to cheer. You want something to remember. The clip of Rojas imitating the pitching motions offered that. Even neutral or opposing fans could smile. The universal charm of someone stepping out of role, doing something playful, doing it well. From the media standpoint, these kinds of moments give us sound bites. Fans lose it as Rojas imitates, reads the headline. But beyond the headline is the why, because it's rare, genuine, unexpected. Because it interrupts the norm. Because it reminds us, we like baseball for the drama but also for the humanity. It's not always about the perfect pitch or the game-winning hit. Sometimes it's about a laugh in the dugout, a wink on the mound, a shared moment across millions of living rooms. And thinking about the players involved, the pitchers he mimicked, the batters facing him, this moment becomes richer. For the pitcher being mimicked, there's a compliment there. Someone saw your motion, your swagger, your identity, and chose to reflect it. That recognition by a peer, via mimicry, is oddly flattering. For the batters, they face not just the ball but the moment. And that changes the dynamic, just a bit. Not hugely in terms of outcome maybe, but enough to shift perception. Looking ahead, when you talk with friends or flip through highlight reels, you'll say, "Remember that one game, when Rojas came in and did that?" And they'll go, "Which one?" You'll smile and say, "That one." And maybe you'll rewind it. Maybe you'll laugh again. Because it sticks. In a sport with so many games, so many innings, so many pitches, the ones we remember are the ones that stand out. That break the pattern. That ask us to lean forward instead of glance away. In a way, this moment belongs to everyone in that stadium who kept their eyes open. The folks in the stands who stayed despite the score. The viewers at home searching through highlights. The broadcasters who captured the reaction. The players on the field who witnessed something off script. And sure, sometimes we forget the exact date or score, but we remember the feel. The moment when something fun happened. This is the kind of moment that the next generation will pass on. In 2025, there was a game where the Dodgers were losing big to the Cubs, and the infielder turned mound performer imitated his own pitchers. And they'll show a clip. And maybe a young fan will laugh and say, wow. Because even if they never experienced it live, they can feel the vibe. They can sense, this was something special. And maybe even for Rojas, it becomes part of his legacy. Not just a stat line, not just a routine game. But the time he climbed the mound and made people laugh. When you're in the business of professional sports, the pressure is immense. The routine is relentless. The margin for error is microscopic. Yet here he is, injecting personality. Saying, yes, I'm a pro, yes, I'm serious, but also, I'm human, I'm playful, I can make this moment ours. And that's why I believe this highlight will echo longer than many. Because it touches more than the scoreboard. It touches culture. It touches identity. It bites into the memory of the sport. It says, here's what happens when we let fun in. This isn't just about strikeouts and home runs, it's about connection. Shared laughter. A community of fans and players and broadcasters all in on the joke. The mound becomes the stage, the player becomes the actor, and the game becomes the show for a minute. So when you show this in your video, lean into that feeling. The energy in the stadium, the surprise, the release. Let the viewer feel it. Let them imagine the crowd leaning forward, the batter stepping in, the pitcher adjusting, the inning unfolding differently. Because those are the moments that keep people watching. They stay for the unpredictable. They stay because they feel included. They stay because they laugh. They stay because they remember. In the end, baseball gave us its usual 27 outs, runs, hits, errors, stats. But in the margin of one inning, in the decision of one player to step into a role and twist it, we got something extra. And that extra is what brings us back. Not just to baseball, but to this baseball game, this moment, this laugh. Because sometimes the highlight isn't the home run. It's the expression, the connection, the spark. And that's what Rojas gave us. A spark. A moment of levity. A memory. When we see clips of pitchers mimicked, we'll smile. When we say the date, we'll recall. April 12, 2025. When we think of baseball moments worth sharing, this will slide into the list. Not just because it's funny, because it's meaningful. Because it reminded us that even in struggle, we can create good. Even in lopsided defeat, we can score in smiles.